So for the solution, what we would, well, there's a lot to unpack here, but part of it would be to nationalize part of the totality of companies, but
So, Alexa for Urban News, and I'm in Montreal, and right now behind me there is a massive protest/march that people are doing for the nature. A lot of people came here with different cause, but everybody wants their voice to be heard. Some of them want to talk about the loss of the biodiversity and the good that we can do for the nature. We have Aboriginal, we have a Maire au Front, we have so many different teams and regroupment of people. So we are going to talk to them to know why they are here today, why it was important, and we'll share with you what will happen. Let's check it out. The event is in fact a march for nature while manifesting the urgency to act to save the planet. Several persons expressed their dissatisfaction with the decision taken by the United Nations Biodiversity Conference, COP15, which is currently taking place in Montreal until December 19. The co-spokesperson for Québec Solidaire, Gabrielle Nadeau-Dubois, and Manon Massé, as well as the mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante, were on hand for the event. Several mascots, costume, and drum were at the rendezvous. The collective COP15, the Convention on Biological Diversity CBD Alliance, the Global Young Biodiversity Network, and Greenpeace Canada are the groups responsible for this event. The strangest were to see anti-capitalism, Marxist, pro-environment groups, Iranian, and even political party, all together in the street.
What's happening in Iran, the young people are demonstrating in the street, manifesting against the government. So the government has no answer for them. The answer is only killing them.
C'est le signe de Maire au Front. C'est le carré de l'organisme Maire au Front.
Michigan water protectors regarding infrastructure and the pipeline, and the United States has never honored any treaty.
And why you're here today? What you are?
To protect the water. To have our voice heard, that we need to defend the sacred.
Well, we're losing animals, we're losing millions of species, and people need to stop burning oil. And
we are Kwakwaka'wakw from British Columbia, and the designs that we wear are the symbols of our people from the very beginning of time. So these are our ancestors who have pretty much the creators of life, and we're here to talk about the connection to the land, our deep connection from the very beginning. So we don't have to use words from the English, we can use symbols that represent our very beginnings, because we've been here for tens and thousands of years. So that's what all of the symbols is, all a connection to our early ancestors.
May I ask you what your sign mean?
Somebody handed me the sign, but not one more inch.
It's actually from our community.
Yes. I'm not sure what the artist's intent was, but I'm going to assume not one more inch of stolen land, not one more inch of clear-cut forest destruction.
It's actually really specific to protest in our community in Kahnawake. Okay. It's not one more inch is the slogan. Not more inch, one more inch of land, no more waters. Talking about development into our community and our territories.
For me, it's a physical demonstration of what it means for us to be in these negotiations more often or not.
The meaning is salmon are the most valuable relative in our lives that have kept us alive forever, and we need to protect them at all costs right now.
How do we protect is listen to the people of the land. 14,000 years, that's 700 generations we've been on this earth, and even before time immemorial. So how do we make so wrong to make it right?
Well, essentially, it's because the capitalism has failed to provide a proper solution to have a proper future for humanity, and we essentially have to reorganize society on the basis of science so that we can plan not only production, but essentially there is to be done about the climate and not just try to seek profit out of it.
So what do you think of the fact that at the UN Biodiversity Conference, they flew 17,000 people to come here for the conference? What do you think about that?
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. But I guess airplanes are one of the worst. What else could they do? It's important to get people together. What? My husband has things too.
No, that's okay.
So should they have done that virtually?
Virtually. Well, that's a good idea, possibly. But this is much more effective, I think. Having people together, all the flags. Something about human contact, I think, makes a difference.
It's a tough one, right? You know, I mean, that's why we're here at COP, is to bring this to the table so we can start meeting with, other politicians younger generations who are coming into cabinet who do care. We have to align ourselves with, everybody who wants to make change, such as yourself.
And are you satisfied yet with what the conference of the United Nations do on the biodiversity?
No. I mean, it's COP 15. How many more years? How many do we need to get up to COP 50, COP 70? The decisions they make are often, setting these goals that sound progressive, and they could be if they stuck to them. But the thing is, they make the goals and then they change the goalpost every year. They don't meet their own targets, and then they increasingly ignore Indigenous people, even when they're pointing out, that they're not meeting the goals, that they're not doing what they say they're doing.
Well, let's just make it right for the future, because there's not much left. We got to save the ecosystem for the future, because when you cut those old growth down, it cuts life off of everything. Our bears, our owls, our medicine. Now they're spraying pesticides everywhere. That's killing our berries and our medicines. It's another cultural genocide. Without our trees, without our salmon, without our clams, we can't be us.
I haven't been following it very closely because I'm in my finals, but from what I've heard, it's just, once again, a lot of talking, a lot of like, oh, look at how bad this problem is. Oh, look at us. I'm so glad to see us in suits around this table and talking about how much of a problem this is and how we should be doing this. You're going to hear a lot of that, like, we should do that or we will have to do that and blah, 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 but they never do it. Why? Because it's profit driven, and the companies, the capitalists, they don't want their profits taken away.
Like, what will be the sacrifice that should be the more important to do?
Well, I'm sure we should be doing a lot more than any of us are doing. Like, don't drive your cars, don't get on airplanes, don't buy plastic.
Defund from any banks that are paying for pipeline infrastructure would be the first start. And, reduce, reuse, recycle.
And so a question is, how you will transport the energy without the pipeline?
So it would be preferred to be on rail other than pipelines, because then it's not going under fresh water.
Les Nations Unies nous ont dit qu'il faut faire des changements dans chaque secteur de la société. Ce qu'il faut faire, c'est avoir une réglementation qui amène des différents modes de production, qui va amener des changements chez les citoyens.
Pensez-vous que c'est le gouvernement qui devrait réguler?
Bien sûr, c'est le gouvernement qui doit réguler. C'est sûr qu'il y a une norme sociale qui doit changer. Il doit y avoir une acceptabilité sociale.
Well, I think, ultimately, we have to come together collectively if we're going to make change. I think the planet is suffering in so many different ways, and it's really not about the people. It's not about the social. It's really about government, and it's about capitalism and the structure of colonialism. We have to break that down and start looking at the needs of people as a collective, as a whole.
So I think that's important for shifting people's mindset about how they interact with our Mother Earth, for sure. But I don't think that's the solution. I think if there's one important thing that people can do, everyday people, it's listen to Indigenous folks. It's get on board with pushing for Indigenous sovereignty. It's getting on board with pushing against the Canadian government, against, colonial governments across the globe.
Stop industrial logging immediately. Majorly reconsider the the way that commercial fishing takes place, stop fish farms because they're polluting and infecting the wild salmon. You know, I don't think about it as a sacrifice. I think it's pretty beautiful once you actually start to change and have a closer connection to the world.
Let's make it right. Let's heal the land, heal the water. Let's heal all the people to make it right for the future.
Ow.
Implementation. Listen to the people of the land. 14,000 years, we're still kicking.
So for the solution, what we would, well, there's a lot to unpack here, but part of it would be to nationalize part of the totality of companies, but also go after some stuff like the American military is one of the biggest polluters on Earth. So part of it would be demilitarization of multiple countries, essentially cleaning up the planet. That means that we would have to go through a global effort, concerted effort, to undo what we've done and move away from fossil fuels, but also away from individualized responsibility and consumerist essentially solution where it's like, oh, if you buy an electric car, well, you're doing your part. No, you're not, because it's polluting a lot, instead of just taking public transport, which is not just accessible to 8% of the population like a Tesla. No, it's accessible to almost 100% of the population. What we have to do is struggle. We have to abandon comfort and embrace struggle, because that is our future, and we should be proud to have that struggle. We have to undo the ways that we are doing things now, because it is simply driving us towards like a giant pit.
Do you think that the government is using Aboriginal as a tool?
Let's just make things right for the future. Because what's been going on for hundreds of years and hundreds has been so wrong. Not listening to the people of the land. They put us on reservations. We couldn't use our lands. They say we abandoned it.
Well, they definitely use it as a means to justify a lot. So a lot of the times they take our traditional knowledge and relabel it as natural-based solution as opposed to indigenous knowledge and our stories being told.
In many cases, yes. Yeah, that is absolutely true. They're using a lot of indigenous individuals as tools to be able to continue to further extraction on territories.
I do. I believe politicians, especially Trudeau, use Indigenous people, use their voices to say, you know, like, look what we're doing for these nations specifically. They throw money at the problem and they say that that's doing a good job, but the money only goes so far, whereas Indigenous sovereignty is what's needed for the long haul.
So we need you if you want to help us that we can continue our journalism, because we need to be on the field all the time. Please go to rebelfieldreport.com, chip in what you can. Thank you.